What happens to my final paycheck after termination? Imagine this. You've just been fired, or you've decided to quit. Emotions are high, and your first thought is, when am I getting my last paycheck? Maybe you rely on that money to cover rent, groceries, or medical bills. The idea that your employer could delay it or even withhold it can feel frightening. So here's the big question. What actually happens to your final paycheck after termination? Do employers have to pay you immediately? Can they hold it until the next payday? And what about unused vacation or sick days? Are those included? The rules depend on a combination of federal law and state law. The FLSA sets wage protections, but each state sets deadlines for final pay. Some require payment the same day, others allow until the next scheduled payday. In this video, we'll explain federal rules, state variations, rights around unused vacation, deductions, and what workers can do if pay is delayed. Federal law, the FLSA, sets the floor. At the federal level, the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, requires that employees be paid for all hours worked. That includes your final paycheck, whether you quit, were laid off, or were fired. But here's the catch. The FLSA does not set a specific deadline for when the final paycheck must be delivered. Instead, it leaves that timing up to the states. Employers must follow the regular payday rules unless state law says otherwise. Example: in states without special rules, if your employer normally pays on the 15th and the 30th, and you're fired on the 10th, you may not get your last paycheck until the 15th. That's still legal under federal law. State laws, timing requirements, differ. Most states go beyond federal law and set specific deadlines. These laws vary dramatically. California, if you're fired, you must be paid immediately at the time of termination. If you quit with 72 hours notice, you must be paid on your last day. If you quit without notice, your employer has 72 hours to provide final pay. Texas. Fired workers must receive final pay within 6 days. If you quit, it's due on the next regular payday. New York. Final pay must be given by the next regular payday, regardless of whether you quit or were fired. Massachusetts. If you're fired, the law requires immediate payment on the same day. If you resign, final pay is due by the next payday. Oregon. If you quit with at least 48 hours notice, you must be paid on your last day. These variations mean the timing of your paycheck depends heavily on where you work. Example: 2 employees are fired on the same day. One in California, one in Texas. The California worker walks out with a check in hand. The Texas worker waits a few days. Both outcomes are legal under their state rules. Unused vacation and paid time off, PTO. What about unused vacation days? Federal law does not require employers to pay out vacation or paid time off, PTO, at termination. But many states have their own rules. California requires payout of all accrued but unused vacation or PTO as wages. Illinois requires payout unless a clear written policy says otherwise. Florida. No law requiring payout. Employers can set their own policies. New York. Requires payout only if the employer's policy or contract promises it. Example: a California worker with 2 weeks of unused vacation must be paid for those days at termination. A worker in Florida may get nothing if company policy excludes it. Sick leave and other benefits. Sick leave is treated differently. Most states do not require payout of unused sick days unless company policy promises it. Paid sick leave laws generally exist to guarantee time off during employment, not lump sum cash outs at termination. Retirement accounts, health benefits, and bonuses depend on employer policies and federal benefits law. For health insurance, you may have the right to continue coverage under COBRA, but that's separate from your final paycheck. Example: a New York worker with 20 unused sick hours quits. Unless the employer's handbook says sick time will be paid out, the worker doesn't receive cash for those hours. Deductions from final pay: employers sometimes try to make deductions from final pay for uniforms, equipment, or damages. Federal law under the FLSA allows deductions only if they don't reduce pay below minimum wage. State laws often add more restrictions. California strongly limits deductions. Employers can't deduct for broken equipment or cash shortages unless due to intentional misconduct. Texas allows deductions with written authorization. New York, only specific deductions allowed by law, like taxes or benefits contributions. Example: a retail worker quits and the employer deducts $200 for a lost tablet. In California, that's usually illegal. In Texas, it may be legal if the worker previously signed an authorization form. What if employers delay or withhold pay? If your employer doesn't pay on time, you have rights. States impose penalties. California: waiting time penalties equal to your daily wage for each day payment is late, up to 30 days. Massachusetts: late final pay can trigger triple damages. Oregon: penalties equal up to 8 hours wages per day until payment is made, capped at 30 days. Example: a California worker owed $1,000 is not paid for 10 days after termination. She may be entitled to $1,000 plus penalties equal to 10 days of wages. Workers can file complaints with state labor departments, the Department of Labor, or pursue civil lawsuits. Unemployment benefits and final pay. Final paychecks do not prevent workers from seeking unemployment benefits. If you are terminated without misconduct, you may still qualify for benefits even if you receive accrued vacation payouts. However, severance pay can sometimes delay benefits depending on state law. Example: in New Jersey, severance may postpone unemployment payments. In California, severance generally does not affect eligibility. Real-world cases. Case 1, California. A restaurant fired staff without issuing final pay that day. Workers sued, and the court imposed waiting time penalties. Case 2, Texas. A worker quit without notice. The employer delayed pay by 3 weeks. The Texas Workforce Commission required payment but imposed no penalties because state law only requires payment on the next payday. Case 3, Massachusetts. A factory worker terminated without same-day pay won triple damages after filing a claim. Case 4, Illinois. Employees forced to sign policies forfeiting vacation payouts successfully challenged the policy, winning accrued vacation pay. These cases show how state-specific rules can drastically change outcomes. Practical steps for workers. If you're terminated and waiting for your final paycheck. 1. Check state law. Each state has its own rules about timing and vacation payout. 2. Review your contract or handbook. Policies may promise more than state law requires. 3. Track deadlines. Note the date of termination and when pay is due. 4. File a complaint if late. State labor departments and the U.S. Department of Labor can enforce wage laws. 5. Seek penalties. States like California, Massachusetts, and Oregon impose strong financial penalties on employers who delay. 6. Consult legal advice, especially if large amounts of vacation or bonuses are withheld. Example: a barista in California fired without same-day pay files with the labor commissioner. She wins not only wages, but also waiting time penalties. The human impact. For workers, the final paycheck isn't just about law. It's about survival. Losing a job means sudden financial instability. A delayed paycheck can mean missed rent, late utility bills, or no groceries. That's why many states impose penalties to make sure employers take final pay obligations seriously. Example: a single parent in Oregon waited 3 weeks for final wages. With penalties, he recovered both pay and compensation for the hardship. The bigger picture. Final paycheck rules reflect the balance between employer flexibility and worker protection. Federal law guarantees you get paid, but states set the real deadlines and penalties. Some states are strict, requiring immediate payment, while others are more lenient. Workers who know their rights can enforce them, while employers who ignore them risk heavy fines. So, what happens to your final paycheck after termination? Federal law under the FLSA guarantees payment for all hours worked, but the timing depends on state law. In California and Massachusetts, payment is often required immediately. In Texas and New York, it can wait until the next payday. Vacation payout also depends on where you live. Mandatory in some states, optional in others. Employers cannot deduct unfairly, and penalties for late pay can be steep. The bottom line, you are entitled to every dollar you've earned, and state laws ensure you get it on time. If your employer delays, you have tools to fight back. If this video clarified your rights, share it with coworkers. Everyone deserves clarity about their last paycheck.